Hello, hello, and welcome back to another live stream mixing the AfterWinter album Boundless, which let's hope this thing comes out this year. I'm looking forward to that, right? We're making pretty good progress here. I think this is going to be a 2025 release, fingers crossed for that. Let's take a look at what we're working at today. We are, no surprise, picking back up where we left off with song number 3 called The Forgotten Wanderer. Hey, Cody's here. How's it going, man? First indeed. Yes. Found out something interesting today. Dad messaged the AfterWinter group today saying that he saw in his memories a post from Sam for June 23rd, 2016, saying, "Last night I wrote a new song called The Forgotten Wanderer." So I guess yesterday is this song's 9th birthday, right? That's what Dad was saying in the chat. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize, I knew the song was old. I didn't realize it was almost a decade. So that's wild. At least the parts of it that Sam wrote. Now we didn't write what the drums and the guitars and the bass and everything else is doing until probably early last year, I would bet. But still, neat. So where we're at mixing this song is that we are getting ready to start the second big chunk of my current mix process, which is sound detail. Now, usually this involves going track by track and listening to all the presets for the different things that we have and then making changes if we need. But because this is track 3 and we've already done tracks 1 and 2, we really are just checking the presets that we had for the other songs. So just kind of going down through each plugin and making sure that we are still wanting the same sound. And for most of this album, I think the drums are probably going to stay fairly consistent. Maybe even 100% consistent across every song as far as how they sound. Time to beat that and find some old discarded Axion song or something. Yeah, no kidding, man. No kidding. Some of those Axion songs date back, gosh, I guess probably 2003, right? If we're talking about It's Okay, that's probably 2003. Woo, that was a minute ago. Long time. Okay, so we're going to be jumping right in. Now, one thing that I almost forgot about that I want to bring up. In the last episode, we brought the bass drum up in the 2 songs we had already mixed, and we brought it up in this one too. I ended up changing my mind about that later and putting them back. Now, this one I haven't put back yet, so we need to put this one at negative 16.5. It's half a decibel, but for some reason the bass drum just suddenly sounded like it wasn't part of the drum set anymore. It was sitting up in front of everything. So just relaxing it just a little bit there. All right, so bass drum here, what we've got going is a virtual mix rack doing all the normal things: saturation, compression, EQ, level matching. We've got our own channel EQ, high passing at 35, boosting a little at 60, cutting a little at 80, multi-pressing, targeting only the frequencies at and below 190, just basically for double bass. So we would definitely want to check this and make sure that it's jumping where it should. It shouldn't be compressing a bunch on every hit. It should only be compressing more and more when we get runs of double bass. Everything else, pretty good with already. Let's just kind of check and make sure that this multipressor is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Already right in the beginning, we can see that it is compressing a bit when we're getting double bass runs or even just like several bass drums close together, but not compressing basically at all on singular hits. Good with that. Good with the sound of it already. I think we're all good there. Let's check the snare. All we've got going on here is virtual mix rack doing saturation, EQ, compression, level matching, and then our own channel EQ high passing at 148, which is below the fundamental, cutting a little at 206, which is a mid-range bandpass change, and also cutting a little at 4500. Also a mid-range bandpass thing, which we may or may not keep when we get to the mid-range bandpass part. But let's just take a listen and focus on that snare again. Pretty sure it's good, but let's take a listen. Good with that. I also turned the snare reverb on right there. We hadn't done that yet. Now, I think in both of the other songs, we've ended up with that snare reverb being at -9. Let's just start there. Again, we won't hear it super, super well until the drums crush is on. Cody says, I used a multipressor the other day on a mix for my master bus and blamed you for me not using a regular compressor. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a good tool, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't deny that I tend to overuse it sometimes. It's such a good tool. I love the multipressor. Yes, after that, we've got our snare reverb. Of course, we do have our 3 snare channels. Again, just in case anybody doesn't know, I separate the snare into 3 separate categories. Backbeat snare, which are just the main hits. That's just we want those to be 100% consistent. Snare fills, which are usually dynamic. And groove snare, which is essentially ghost notes or anything that's kind of like a ghost note. Now, we can affect those 3 things differently, but the big difference is that I make all of the backbeat snares, or the thing that just says snare here, 100% consistent using multiband gating and then the drum leveler. So we want all those hits to sound either exactly the same or basically the same, and then we let the snare fills be a little bit more dynamic. So that's why there's 3 snare channels there. Only a snare top mic, don't do snare bottom. Then we got our snare reverb, which already sounds good. We've set that across the other songs. Then we've got our kick and snare master. Now, we do have, I said master really weird there, an instance of Nealeigh's plugin, Smash and Grab version 2 here on the master channel. It's not currently on. We only activate that if there is a snare and bass drum hitting together that peaks over -7, which is where we've set kind of our ceiling for this stuff. I don't think that's happening in this song, so we can leave that off unless we notice it happening later. Next, we have our 5 tom channels in here. We actually have 3 rack toms and 2 floor toms, all of which get hit at different points in the song. I think these are all good, but we'll check again. Each one of them has an instance of the drum leveler doing 80% compression, trying to make the hits fairly consistent, but not destroying the dynamic of the fills. We've got virtual mix rack on the tom's aggro preset, which is doing all the normal things, saturation, EQ, compression, level matching. Then we've got our own channel EQ, high passing just below the fundamental of each tom, boosting a little bit of the fundamental, cutting on some of them for boxiness, and then a little bit of a boost around 3500 or so for some attack. Each one of the toms has that same stuff on it, but the channel EQ at the end is changed depending on each drum. You know what I mean? So we're changing the fundamental for each one. The only thing new for this song is floor tom 2. And it does look like we've set that up already. The only thing that we haven't done is boost the fundamental. It probably didn't need it. So let's kind of check out each section. This first section is actually a good spot for all 3 of the rack toms. Yeah, I think I'm going to turn them all up a little bit, but other than that, I'm good. And then if we jump out here to the instrumental, we'll hear floor tom 2 and floor tom 1 a little better. We also rather unusually have floor tom 2 stuck right in the middle of the stereo field rather than panned out to its actual position on the drums, which I do think we'll leave for this just because this is meant to sound kind of tribal rather than it sounding specifically like something Eli is doing on the actual drum set. The toms are more of kind of like an effect feature, so I think we can stand to leave floor tom 2 right in the center of the field. Good with all the sounds. Also turned up the tom's reverb there, all the normal stuff on that. EQ, hitting that first just to make sure that we're only getting the mid-range going into that, then the actual reverb plug-in, and then another EQ at the end here just to get a little bit more high-end out of the reverb itself. A couple of plugins we do want to activate on the tom's master. First, a multipressor, which is, again, just making sure that nothing in any particular frequency range is jumping out higher than everything else. I think that very first section where the drums come in is a good place to check. Again, we want to see this stuff compressing, those lines jumping down just a little bit, unless he's hitting lots of toms right in a row. So this we should see kind of like a little or maybe a medium amount of compression throughout this section. Okay, so we saw almost nothing there. So let's compress those sections, at least maybe not the low lows yet, but the other ones we should compress a little harder. Okay, yeah, getting better there. And then if we go out here to the instrumental again, we should see that the 160 and below jumping a little bit more. Okay, good with that. I did just think of another thing here. Right, on our floor tom 2, we want to make sure that we are putting in a cut. Let's actually change this. I want peak 2 to take over the job of peak 1. And then at peak 1, we're going to move this cut down to 70. And this is because that floor tom is kind of starting to cover up the bass guitar. So by putting a cut there right at 70, and a sort of medium-wide cut there, we give room for the bass drum and the bass guitar to cut through this floor tom. So anything that kind of takes up that same range in the low there, we want to make sure that the bass drum and the bass guitar can still get through there. To find a balance there too, so that's why I lessened that cut just a little bit, because it did kind of take some of the floor tom. Unfortunately, the fundamental of that low floor tom appears to be right around 70, so if we cut too hard, now we're just not really hearing that tom very well. So got to find that balance. Okay, the other thing on this channel is, again, Nealeigh smash and grab, this time in grab mode, which, again, is mostly a safety net. This is meant to activate if he's hitting more than one tom at the same time. So let's just kind of take a look and see what it's doing here at the beginning. We shouldn't be seeing this thing go above that -3, kind of like right in the middle of this VU meter. So it didn't hardly move at all, which is okay. I'm not sure he hit 2 toms at the same time at any point during that. Let's kind of check the instrumental too. I think I am going to compress a little bit harder than we currently are, which means we need to re-level match. good with all that. I think I'm good with the overheads already. Each channel has its own EQ. Again, we do 4 overheads, a hi-hat mic, a right cymbal mic, and a space pair left and right. And we've got, each one has an EQ, high passing up to 600. Excuse me. The hi-hat has a high shelf taking some low end out because our hi-hat mics, or our hi-hat cymbal rather, is very aggressive. Right cymbal is just cutting to 600. Looks like both of our overheads are high passing at 600 and then increasing a little bit with a high shelf at 7500, giving a little bit more sheen on those cymbals. Now we do have 8 overhead channels in the song, which I think we had on Poison in the Well and Boundless as well, and that's just extra cymbal hits. Anytime a cymbal hit, if he missed a cymbal or if the cymbal hit wasn't powerful enough, we just stick a cymbal in there. Again, it's it's actual audio of Eli hitting the cymbal. We just have extra ones to stick in there if we need. Looks like there's just one in this song. Somewhere in verse 2, we needed an extra cymbal hit. On our overhead master, we have, yet again, the smash and grab, this time in smash mode, just trying to even out and compress our cymbals. Again, we shouldn't see this go above 3 or much above 3. I usually compress the overheads a little harder than the toms, but this is still mostly a safety net. Oh, I would jump to a part of the song that doesn't have drums. Okay, yeah, so we did go above -3 a bit there, so I turned the compression down just a hair. Or rather, I moved the threshold just a hair, I should say. So it's not actually compressing less, literally. It's activating the compressor less often. We do also have an instance of the Soothe plugin on here, but for now we can leave that off. That is only for if we find a spot where the hi-hat tends to be particularly annoying. We can turn that Soothe on just for that section, and then it helps tame that hi-hat. Okay, parallel compression. Just in case you have not seen us do this before, this is where we send all of the drum mics to a special bus, this one right here called Drum Crush, and we put a compressor on it, in this case Virtual Mix Rack, so we're getting everything again, saturation, EQ, compression, but we're compressing really hard. We are smashing this thing or crushing it so that it's compressing just about as hard as it can go. It by itself, it's a pretty nasty sound, but when you mix that back under your uncompressed drum sound, it makes everything really snappy, makes it punchy, makes it sound really cool. By itself, it sounds pretty goofy. Weird, right? So it's mostly snare, and that is by design. It sounds like in this particular song we're getting a little bit too much cymbal as well. Let's maybe turn the cymbals down. Okay, so yes, mostly snare drum, because that's really what we want to add the punch to. I already have this set to -16.5, which is where we had this set in Poison in the Well and Boundless. So we can assume that it's probably good right there too, but we are going to check it to make sure that it is actually good there. It is very warm out today, so we're getting some like bugs and stuff in here. Ugh. Okay, so unmuting the drums crush now. So we were still getting a little bit too much cymbal. Turn those down. Now I think we're sitting right. So just in case you're wondering, really, what is this adding? Let me play a little bit of this again and mute it. Right? So if you're wondering when it's muted and when it isn't, if you look over in the top right corner there, you can see my mixer view here. The drums crush channel is this one that's lit up green right here. So when you press this button that lights up red, it's muted. And then obviously if it's not lit up red, it's on. So it's a pretty big difference, right? Especially if you're paying attention to the snare drum. Now the cymbals don't sound that different, which is okay because we've turned them a lot further down. The bass drum gets a little bit more hefty. The snare especially suddenly feels like it's an impact. It's punching. So really like this. This is something that I've used off and on throughout the years. For some reason, did not use on Paramnesia, and I'm regretting that now. I remember trying it. Something about it hit me wrong. I didn't like it, and so I didn't use it. But on this album, we definitely want it. Now, this is the first thing that you want to try turning off if the dynamics of a section are suddenly wrong. If the drums worked before and suddenly they seem a little too much, usually it's the drums crush. That section we were listening to right there, we may want to consider turning the drums crush down or off. Okay, our next thing that we need to do is the drums master. Now, this is the only one that we have not yet checked to make sure that it's peaking no higher than -7 because we have a lot of things going on in this. We now need to listen to the whole song front to back and see where our peak meter, this one right here that says -7.1, see where that hits. It'll probably go above 7. And then we're going to turn everything down until it's not going above 7. And then we have our Black Salt Audio drum bus to turn on. So let's check it out. I'm going to try and watch it as well to see when it hits above -7 so that we don't have to keep listening to the whole thing over and over to make sure it stays under -7. Oh, you know what? I would listen to the whole thing, but the drums don't come in until later. Let's jump a little closer to where the drums actually come in. Nice. Yes, boy, do we have some work to do. That is for sure. The Drums Crush has definitely introduced some interesting issues in this where we're going to need to automate it up and down. It doesn't need to be on for the whole song. Also, it is calling a lot of spots where cymbal bleed on the snare fills and groove snare are... it's calling that right to the front of the mix. Suddenly we're hearing those cymbals go psst for just a second. And that we're definitely going to have to fix. Okay, also... we peaked a little above 7 almost right away, but then we really hit where we ended up here, this negative 3.8. We hit that here near the end of verse 2, and I know which section that is. It's a section that I've said many times is my favorite. So let's treat that as if it's negative 4. That is also where Poison in the Well and Boundless hit. So I think if we're just a couple of decibels above 7, that's going to be okay. We can also confirm here that our smash and grab, our instance of smash and grab right here is not necessary. The bass and snare never go above negative 7. So if we take our submasters, kick and snare master, toms master, overhead master, and drum crush, and turn them down by 3... we will theoretically hit negative 6.8 on our drum master, which is fine. It's a little above 7, but it's not too bad. We're going to go ahead and turn on our Black Salt Audio drum bus plug-in right here, which is just going to give us a little bit of extra kind of punch and oomph in the drums. We do want to make sure that this is not causing us to jump above 7 still. So let's jump over to that section that I know caused that jump clear up to 3.8 and kind of see what we see. Yeah, so we still jumped to 6.9, but that's fine. 6.9 is totally acceptable. It's just that one spot. Again, you guys could probably hear sections I'm talking about where the cymbal bleed on the snare fills and groove snare tracks is like suddenly jumping at us in a bad way. We're going to have to do something about that. Also, I don't know if anybody was in here when I said this. Right at the beginning, when the stream started, I mentioned Dad discovered in his memories today that the core of this song, which was written by Sam, was written 9 years ago. So this song's 9th birthday was yesterday, which is wild. Like I've mentioned, I think a couple of times since we started working on this song, this one's been around for a while. We've been talking about using it for a while. We just didn't get around to it until now. So, super cool. I see Majennica's in here too. Majennica is the female vocalist you guys heard there in the middle if you didn't know that already. I accidentally made Majennica kind of mad with this song too, because she was really looking forward to singing a bunch on this one, and then we didn't write very many lyrics for it. Whoopsie daisy. I don't know, Majennica, if you're still in here, I assume you remember that when it was time to record the vocals. You're like looking forward to that song the whole time, and then it comes up and it's just got like 2 lines, and you're like, really? This is the one I was really looking forward to singing on. Whoops. Okay, so I think, honestly, before we continue, our context mix, it's going to be important for us to not have the drums be crazy in all of these sections where the drums crush is maybe making the drums a little too aggressive in sections that should be a little pulled back. Majennica says, it's so pretty. Yeah, absolutely. And it was I intended to write more lyrics for it, if I'm being honest. If you look up here, you can even see that we kind of marked out verse 1, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, that sort of thing. We intended for it to have more lyrics. Cody says, I look forward to only singing 2 lines. Yeah. But when we got to it, as far as writing lyrics and trying to think about... oh, yes. Hey, Puckapai. I hope I'm saying your name right. Forgive me if that's not right. Good to see you. That's another new name. What are the benefits of using a mixer compared to a digital one? That is an excellent question. It is completely personal taste. These things that you're seeing here do absolutely nothing that Logic can't do on its own without them. These are very, very expensive as well. And if I'm also being honest, they've been very buggy. It was a pain trying to get these things to work. It is completely tactile for me. I just kind of like having the feel of the fader that I can push or pull back. Other than that, there isn't really a big benefit, if I'm being honest. I kind of like that. It also, kind of helps you mix with your ears more than your eyes. I tend to, on the digital mixer, instead of moving the fader, like this one says negative 4.5, if I want to change that, I'm going to physically type in what I want it to change to, right? Which is a little bit more about mixing with your eyes than ears. This, you don't get such an obvious numerical code. You have to kind of put it where it feels right or where it sounds right. So again, it's very few benefits. If I'm being totally honest with you, it's just tactile. I kind of like it that I can pull them up and down, but you can do it without them. You don't need these at all. You can save yourself. Geez, I think this thing here was $500. This thing here was $550. I've got a second one of these, which you can only kind of see off in the corner here, that just doesn't work. Like I said, very buggy. It's been a pain to get them to work, and this one still doesn't. So this is $500 I could have saved myself. But if you like having that tactile sense of physically moving things, it's pretty nice. It also looks neat. This is certainly something that appeals to people who come record here when they see this because it looks professional. Whether or not it makes a difference on your ability, it doesn't. You know what I mean? But it looks cool. So that's nice. Hopefully that answered your question. Please feel free to expand on the question, or if anything else occurs to you. Again, really glad you're here. Hope you enjoy what you're seeing, enjoy what you're hearing. Any other questions, or if you want to expand on that question, throw it in there, man. Very much appreciated. Yeah, so when we got to writing lyrics for this one, it just felt like it was okay as is. You know what I mean? I was struggling to think of what would lyrics add here that the music isn't adding. Would the lyrics have to follow the melodies that Sam is playing? Oh, absolutely. No, thank you for the question. Very much. What would the lyrics be adding? What would the melody be adding? Would it just be following what Sam is already doing on the keyboard? Or would it be doing its own thing? And if it's doing its own thing, is it adding something? Or is it just another layer that you have to try and pay attention to? And eventually the answer just came down to, I think this one's okay without many lyrics. If we just have that little bit near the end, it gets across the storyline still a little bit. It leaves the listener imagining, or at least I do, imagining somebody kind of lost out in the wilderness and trying to find their way. And near the end, we get this kind of comforting voice saying, it's okay, I'm here with you, don't worry about it, I will guide you, you know what I mean? So yeah, meant to write a whole song's worth of lyrics for this one, but in the end, it just felt like it didn't need it. So sorry, Majennica. All right, so let's take another kind of listen through the drum sections, this time really paying attention to the dynamic. So again, our limiter, which we're just listening with this on the mix, the limiter is going to get turned off before we export, is by definition destroying some of our dynamics where the song is supposed to pull back and be a little quieter and then really hit hard. And we want to make sure that our mixing decisions are helping maintain the dynamics that were originally intended. Some of those are getting destroyed by our parallel compression on those drums, making the drums a little bit too aggressive when they need to be pulled back. So let's listen to that, see if we can find those sections, and when we find them, we will automate the volume on the drums crush, the parallel compression, to go down a bit so that the drums aren't so aggressive. Got to remember to take care of those spots where the cymbal bleed is really bad too. So here might this feels a little too aggressive. Yeah, so that section right there, I think. Now, it's not much. Again, it's mostly the sound of the snare. I also think I want this to come back to where it is slowly over the course of that fill that takes up these two measures. So we're going to put a couple of nodes here and here. Now, we also want to make sure that this doesn't start until, like, right around here somewhere. So we're not affecting the beginning of the song. And let's try pulling this crush down, let's say about to here. So we're talking about, like, 5-ish decibels. Yeah. 6. My bad. 6 decibels. Feels a little more want to turn that fill up when we get to volume automation. I like it. I love what Eli was doing on the drums right there, too. That the double-handed hi-hat, 16th notes there. Oh, yeah. It does become a little bit more complicated since we're in 6/8 time, I guess. But yeah, I've always loved that part. Okay, let's keep listening. That's probably not the only section. Back a little bit more. Oh, by the way, yes, Cody said, how are you remembering what area you're wanting to do automation at? I don't see you using markers or anything. I personally have bad memory, so I use markers and label them. Yeah. It depends on what you mean by markers. Now, I know Logic has something called markers that I don't really use. Or yes, I guess this is what it is called, markers. So yes, now my face, the camera that has my face in it and the mixers is blocking a lot of this, which is probably why it looks that way. But up here at the top, and I'll try and put this over here more to the left so that you can hopefully see it, it says instrumental right here. So it's right under the measure rulers, is basically just where I'm marking the arrangement of the song. Anything else, I'm just trying to remember, basically. But if I'm talking about like going to the verse or going to the chorus or anything like that, then that's what's marked there, just these. Also, handily, when we got this button here called marker lit up green, it means that my fast forward and rewind buttons will jump me to the nearest marker section that I've marked out. So right now that jumped me to the instrumental, but if I press this, it'll pop us up over here to pre-chorus 2. So sort of marking them, maybe not in the conventional means. But yeah, hard to see on stream, I imagine. Okay. Yes, so let's go ahead and pull this section down too. And I kind of liked where we had it volume-wise in the previous one. which I believe was 25.5. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'd say probably kind of a similar thing there. There we go. So 184 and 185 are the two measures directly preceding him, kind of like coming in. Let's make the volume kind of go up gradually over the course of those two measures, and then let's relax that snare thing there too. That one was on the line, I think, a little bit. That one probably could have been okay if we'd left it, but I for sure want to hear what it sounds like pulled down. Okay, yeah, I think we're doing good there from a dynamic standpoint, at least as far as the drum crush is concerned. I'm still definitely wanting to get a little bit more push and pull on some of those quiet sections where when things really come back in, it feels like it needs to like hit a little harder. You know what I mean? That's something we're going to have to address for sure. The next thing that I want to address is that cymbal bleed, and I'm pretty sure it's just the groove snare. I am feeling pretty confident that every time I was hearing it pop up really bad, it was our groove snare track. Excuse me. So again, if you weren't in here, any other time I've explained kind of this snare chain, if you will. After Eli records, and these are 100% acoustic drums, I separate the snare into three categories: backbeat snare, snare fills, and groove snare. Backbeat snare needs to be 100% consistent. We multi-band gate all the cymbal bleed out of it, and then use drum leveler to get everything at the same volume, sounding the same or close to the same. The snare fills get gated a little bit differently. We don't multi-band gate them just because those fills are a little bit more dynamic. We're a lot more likely to lose quieter snares if we do that. The groove snare, which is basically ghost notes, we definitely can't multi-band gate or we will start losing the snare signal. So in this case, we actually took the gate off of this because it was gating the snares totally out of there sometimes. But now we're getting that cymbal bleed really bad. So we're going to probably need to automate this gate right here, this pink thing, on and off off for the hits that it's just gating everything out and on for everything else. And if that doesn't work, we're going to have to figure out something else. So first off, this is in slot G. So let's get some volume automation on this track. We need virtual mix rack, slot G, power. And this will allow us to turn that gate off and on. We're going to turn it on as its default position. And we're going to make sure that we're actually hearing all of these snares that are on this. So I'm going to solo my mic, solo the drums. There we go. And let's make sure that anytime we're seeing an event on this track, we're actually hearing it. Yeah, didn't hear either of those. But if we turn the gate off, what's the cymbal bleed like? Pretty bad. Okay. Well, that's annoying. Let's take a look at this again. Maybe what we need to do here is turn our threshold for the gate down. Let's turn the gate back on for these. That was the move right there. Okay, so maybe this whole turning the gate on and off thing is not what we need to do. Let's keep on checking. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, okay. That threshold might have been the key. I don't know if I agree with my past self that those were groove snares. Same thing with that. That should have been on the snare fills. Whatever. Okay, that was it. Okay, good. Well, that was a lot easier than I anticipated it being. So we don't need that track envelope after all. Never going to complain when it's a nice, easy fix like that. Okay. Let's jump back to where we were. The next thing that we need to pay attention to is the two instances in the song where there is a backward cymbal. Now, this does have the same settings on it that we had for the backward cymbal in Boundless. This is also the same settings I've put on my backward cymbal for just about as long as I've been using Logic. So it's probably good, but let's listen and make sure. Yeah. Now the end of that is a little bit weird. It's probably because there's not like a hit right there. In retrospect, maybe we should have had maybe Eli should have done like a hit and a crash grab right there or something like that. I mean, it's too late for that now, but... Yeah, it just kind of like goes, and we kind of hear that, whereas normally the impact of whatever hits is right there. Let me think about this for a second. I wonder... Let me pull in a track here really fast. There was a backward cymbal on the solo album I did a few years ago called Reclamation in the song, Can You Grab a Cymbal Grab from Another Song? Thought about that. That might be an option too. There's a backward cymbal in the song Once Upon a Time, This Nightmare that has a really neat reverb tail on it. Why can I not find this? Oh, you know what? I put it in here, didn't I? Yep, okay. There we go. See if we can put this reverb tail on this and see if that'll do something to it. Backward cymbal. Here we go. Let's take a look at what we've got. Okay, so we put something on here called PT verb. Interesting. That's a Logic built-in thing. Let's try putting that on this and just kind of see what it does. Not sure. I like it better. I'm still just not sure that I want basically the attack of the stick hitting the cymbal, which is at the end because it's backwards. Maybe we need to fade it out of there. Fade off that attack so that it's not quite so much of a hard zip at the end. I do like that better, actually. Next question is that PT verb doing what we want it to? I definitely hear it. You can kind of hear the, like a cymbal sizzle after the cymbal has hit. And if we take that out, we get... It feels a little bit more natural with the reverb, I think, but I'll be honest, I'm on the fence a bit. Let's turn the wet signal down just a little bit, which if you're unfamiliar just means the amount of reverb. That made it feel natural, but also a little bit less in your face. Let's turn it back up just a hair, but not much. That was 31% we just heard. Let's try 38. Maybe a good middle ground would be good there. It's nitpicky. I would give that to anybody who says it's being nitpicky. It is. Oh, Yeah. Okay, here's a question for the chat. We can pretty easily put a bass drum right there. Let's try that. Again, because of the way I process the bass drums, I cut every single bass drum apart, put it on its own channel, multiband gate it. Well, I multiband gate it before I cut it apart, but and then level match across, which means every bass drum in the entire song, is separated from the rest. So it looks like audio samples. It isn't, but it looks like it. But my point is, we can grab a bass drum and copy it right over to here, right at the end of that. So my question is, does this sound stupid? Oh, yeah. Conflicted. I don't know if I liked it, but I may have not liked it because I've been listening to the demo of this song since we finished it, and it's never been there before. Let's listen again. But I want anybody who's watching, I want your opinion. Does that bass drum sound stupid? Oh, man, I'm not sure. Guys, throw some stuff in the chat, please. I genuinely have no idea what to do with that. I'm not sure if it sounds dumb or if I just think it sounds dumb because I'm not used to it being there. Let's move on until we get some, again, what I'm seeing in chat is a bit behind what's happening for me in real life, so we can probably move on a little bit until some people weigh in there. Okay, so our next couple of tracks that we'll just go ahead and take a look at while we're waiting on that is the auxiliary floor toms which happen in the instrumental, and then Eli comes in playing it on the actual drum track too, but there's a couple of tracks that are left and right that are doing kind of like tribal drum beats during that section. I think I want to pull them in a little bit. I could do this on the board. Again, tactile. It doesn't make any difference, but I kind of like the idea of twisting a knob. Let's go to like, not quite halfway, but a little bit spread out. Not even really hearing them all that well, if I'm being honest. That's weird, because I was pretty sure we heard them good in the context mix. I've also been pitch shifted down, which I'm not sure if I want to keep. I see. Let's do a couple of things with this. Instead of compression and EQ, let's treat this like floor tom 2. I'm quite sure that this was floor tom 2. If we were wanting it to be low, I'm sure that's what Eli would have hit, was floor tom 2. We'll go with our normal toms aggro, and I don't think we need to level match, if I'm being honest. I don't mind if this makes that a little bit louder, considering it's as quiet as it is. And then let's put our own EQ back on after that and kind of do our normal EQ moves for a floor tom here, which would be give us a little bit of a boost at 3500 for attack. We're going to high pass right under the fundamental. Yeah, that did quite a bit, actually. We're going to leave peak 1 for the fundamental just in case, but we'll use peak 2 to get rid of some of that boxiness that's right after the fundamental. Started to hear him a little too well there. They were starting to kind of like get in the way of what Eli was doing. Okay, so we're going to need to volume automate those probably too. Let's just go ahead and do that now while we're here. Because once Eli starts playing, I would like for these to kind of get out of the way. So maybe these should kind of start a little bit higher than we're seeing them now. Start at 1, and then once Eli starts playing, we want him to give way to him being kind of the more important part there. Anybody, any opinions on that bass drum at the beginning? We'll go back and listen to that a couple more times here as soon as we're done here. Yeah, let's bring them down. Oops, this one ended up a little bit under, as it didn't move when I moved the other two. Yeah, we'll definitely go back and listen to that again. Yeah, this is something that this is another one of those lines that we're going to have to be careful with those floor toms right there, because as cool as that treble beat is, it's also definitely not the focus of that section. I'm better with it right now since we turned down the parallel compression, but it is still a little too loud. We want to relax that just a little bit more, which we'll take care of more in the volume automation phase. I think we're okay with it for now. Let's go back and check out that bass drum again. Okay, so the question here is, we've got this backwards cymbal, which kind of like, rather than leading us into this big open explosion, it actually leads into everything stopping for a second for a piano part. And there's a string hit right there, which I think Eli was talking about in the last episode, sounded kind of weird. So I've tried putting a bass drum there. But does the bass drum sound bad? So here it is with the bass drum. I'm not sure. Let me play it to you the way it was with no bass drum there. I'm really not sure. I feel like I prefer it without, but also I'm worried that I only feel that way because that's how I've always heard it. You know, for the like a year that this demo has been like this, that bass drum has not been there. So definitely would like some other opinions. Bass drum or no? Let's listen again. Here it is with. And without. Cody says, I like the feel of a hit there. Definitely demoitis. Yeah, okay. Because that's kind of what I was thinking. Because it feels like there should be an impact there, so it makes sense. Let me see, too. This might be something that I need to file away in my mind for future. Again, in case somebody hasn't heard me talk about this before, the first thing that we do once we have the drum mics set up and we're confident that they are where they're going to stay, Eli gives me, you know, a bass drum hit and a snare hit and each of the toms and each of the cymbals so that we can go back in and replace bad hits if there are any with this kind of like clean, I guess, sample, if you will. It's a sample literally. It's not a sample in the way that people kind of think of samples nowadays. But I don't think we do crash grabs. Nope. We have him hitting the cymbal but not grabbing the cymbal. Now we could simulate the grab by just cutting it off, but that's going to sound weird. I'm sure he's done crash grabs in other songs that we could pull in for this, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. I do feel like I would feel better about it. If the hit is going to be there, sounds like it needs a crashed and choke to go with the kick. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. Eli, can you think of any places that you did that on this album? There's gotta be one. I just, for some reason, can't think of any. Because we could totally grab it from a different song and stick it there. There may even be one in this song somewhere. Eli says there's one in Boundless. Is it right at the beginning? Like right where the drums transition from the radio effect? Let's grab Boundless, overhead channels, or maybe right at the end of the solo. Oh, definitely don't import the audio information or the tempo information. Looks real funny. At the end of each chorus, duh, yes. The question is, where is the chorus in this stuff that I've just imported? Here, maybe? Yeah. Yep, we can totally grab that one right there. Now it's going to have some extra bass drums in it, but I think that'll be okay. We'll look at the very beginning, too, just to see. But I think that one right there will work if we don't have a cleaner one. Okay, so that wasn't a crash grab at the beginning. Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and check. No, you know what? I know it's not a crash grab at the end of the solo because you hit toms there. Yeah, so we'll use that one that we mentioned a second ago. So we're gonna copy, then we're gonna delete all these tracks. Highlight our extra cymbals track. Go right where we stuck that bass drum. We're going to have to tell it to use the tracks we want it to. Yes. Oh, okay. Another thing I forgot to do there. We got to get right up on this stuff and snip it right before the transient. Stick it to the grid. We're doing some editing wizardry here. And we don't want it to overstay its welcome for sure, or else we're going to hear other bass drums. And there's other stuff going on here, so I don't think we shouldn't have to worry about it like feeling unnatural. Let's kind of see what we got there. Oh yeah. Yep. It's kind of funny. Insert the anime. Wow. Yeah, totally. I love stuff like that just because, it feels like it shouldn't work, but it does. Thank you, chat. That was a good idea from Cody bringing something in from another song, and good thinking on Eli's part for remembering some spot that had a crash grab in it. Yes. Yeah. Feels great now. I like it. Yeah. Well, great. Now I'm going to have to put AfterWinter YouTube channel chat in the co-producer credit. Okay, where were we actually? Yeah, that's right. We got those auxiliary toms in there. Let's listen to that section one more time. Just make sure I didn't gloss over anything because we were worried about that bass drum hit. I work for free. It's okay. Yes. Okay. Another question about this. This again, I think this is something we're going to have to kind of balance here because on the actual drum track, this tribal thing comes in, and it still feels like it's maybe a hair loud in this section. But we've also got these auxiliary floor toms that Eli played later in the left and the right, kind of doing that too. And at the moment, we've got them volume automated to jump down in volume when Eli starts playing it on the actual drums. So we've got... Should those other ones maybe wait? Let's get rid of the pitch shift. I'm not sure that the pitch shifting those toms down lower is actually helping us. Do we need them at all? If we just mute them, because for sure when he comes in playing it on the actual drum set, it feels like it's they're not in sync enough. It just feels awkward. You know what I mean? Or maybe we leave them in the beginning there when they're by themselves, but then when he comes in on the actual drum set, cut them. Don't just turn the volume down, just cut them. I think I do like the pitch shift, but I'm kind of warming to that idea. When he starts playing it on the actual kit, maybe cut these left and right ones. I think we're going to do that. I'm not sure that they're adding enough to be warranted necessary the whole time. Like them here, but then here... Dang it, now I'm questioning myself. I've lost it. Maybe they do just need to be turned down a little bit more and then everything's fine. Get out of here, bug. It's fine like that. Talk about demo-itis, producer-itis. It's its own thing. Start getting wrapped up in every little detail of every little thing and questioning decisions. We played it on there. It's existed like that for like a year in demo form. It's fine. Okay, so moving on to the bass now. Now, again, we've got everything on the bass that's been on the previous songs. So almost definitely fine as is. So what we're looking at here is some compression, just Logic's built-in compression. Get a little bit of flatness going into the virtual mix rack, which is doing all the normal things. Saturation, EQ, compression level matching. We've got an EQ coming out of that. high passing at 35, cutting at 60 for the bass drum, boosting at 80, which is where we kind of want the low end of the bass to feel, cutting at 115 for a little bit of boxiness, also cutting at 1540 for this weird kind of like nasally tone we were getting. We want to check to make sure that's still necessary. We checked it in Boundless, and it seemed like it was still doing good things. Let's just keep on checking it. Yeah, I think we're going to leave that. It's just this weird, like, little nasally sound that's extra in there that it just kind of gets rid of. Okay, and then finally, multi-pression here, which is just working on making sure that nothing jumps out. This is especially important on the bass. Excuse me. Ugh, having some weird gas today. Especially important on the bass to make sure that no extra low frequencies jump out when he goes down to the low B string, and no extra high frequencies jump out when he's up there on the high G string. So we've got that low, the low box compressing a little bit harder whenever he's hitting low notes, which is good. Now for our master channel, we have another EQ, which is all mid-range bandpass stuff. Little boost at 35 for some clarity. A little cut at 350 for muddiness. And we also have a low shelf cutting a decibel, which may not be necessary in this one. I think that was a little bit more necessary in Boundless because we were in B, and so we were hitting those low, everything was hitting the low bass notes a lot more, making the low end a little bit more muddy. But this one's in E, like Poison in the Well was, so it probably doesn't need that cut. Poison in the Well didn't need the cut. Let's get rid of it and listen. I'm liking that. Put it at a half decibel instead of -1, and then we'll be able to tell a little bit later on. Okay, moving into guitars. So just like the other songs, these are quad-tracked with rhythm guitars. James in the left, James in the right, me in the left, me in the right. Nice big wall of guitar sound, which is usually a little bit more prominent than it currently is in this song. And this is just because this is a piano-focused song. Piano and orchestra rather than guitar jumping right up to the front. So if the guitars are a little quiet in this one, I think that's fine. They're support instruments in this one rather than having like the all-important riff. You know what I mean? On each guitar, we have a channel EQ high passing at 70. And also a multipressor, which is bypassed other than the low frequencies at 200 just to focus on palm muting. So we should check this, and we shouldn't see this thing jumping much, if at all, unless we palm mute. So let's listen in solo here just so that we can really tell for sure that we're hearing the right things. Perfect. Cutting a little when we're playing low notes, that's fine. But it's really jumping when we palm mute. That's good. So each one of the guitars has that. That was James's left guitar we were looking at. Let's go ahead and look at mine and just make sure, because the settings aren't the same. I think I might compress mine just a little bit harder, actually. Okay. Then on our master bus, we have a whole bunch of stuff extra here. So first off, we hit another multipressor, which is trying to make sure there aren't any errant frequencies anywhere along here that's jumping out, but particularly, again, with focus on that low end, anytime we palm mute, we're multipressing each individual one, but we can still get a buildup of bass frequencies with all 4 of them coming together. So we're kind of, again, mostly focused on palm muting there, but we should see all of this jumping or compressing just a little bit, with that low end jumping a little bit harder whenever we palm mute. Yep, perfect. I love that part, yeah. So you can see that we're still taking quite a bit of low end out of that. We also have a regular compressor here, which may or may not be necessary. This is a very much a safety net compressor. We shouldn't be seeing this do much. It's just working on the overall volume of all 4 tracks coming in at once. Okay, and then we have a couple of channel EQs. Now the first one is cutting 3 decibels at 70, which is helping the bass drum and the bass guitar cut through the guitars better so that we can turn everything up and still hear it all. The other 2 things... Oh, right, okay, never mind. We have a cut at 6,000, which is just for a little bit of harshness. And then we have a cut at 280, which is a mid-range bandpass thing to get rid of a little bit of mud. And then we have... The only reason we have 2 EQs here is because we ran out of nodes on the first one. We ended up adding a little bit at 6,500 for a little bit of extra aggression, which actually may not be necessary in this one. I think in our original context mix, we actually turned this off because it kind of forced the guitars to the front in a way we don't want in this particular song. We'll check that. So we've got the other EQ on right now. See if we can push the guitars a little louder. Now, there are spots in the volume automation where we'll want the guitars to pop out a little better than that, but I think that's a good general volume. With that EQ on, we can stand to push them a little further so that they can be heard better without kind of taking up all the space. Okay, for each one of our pianos, and it does look like we have 6 piano tracks in this song, 2 low pianos and 4 high pianos. Just as a quick aside, again, I've mentioned this before, but Sam does perform usually matching numbers. So low piano 1 and high piano 1 was a single performance with MIDI, but again, he actually played this. I later separated what his left hand did and what his right hand did so that we can affect them differently. But we have a couple of extra high piano tracks on this one that don't have a low piano with them. All we've got going on right now is EQ, compression, and saturation. Looks like our current EQ cuts should be okay. The 70 on the low pianos is for the bass and the bass guitar again. This 406 is probably a mid-range bandpass thing or something that we did just for the sound. And then in the high pianos, we've got a high pass here because there shouldn't be any low-end information anyway. And then again, that mid-cut high boost. Looks like everything's pretty consistent across everything. We've got a piano reverb, which is up. And then on our master bus, we have multi-pressor, regular compressor, channel EQ. Excuse me. Let's check our multi-pressor. Where's a good spot that has lots of piano going on? There's pretty consistently lots of piano going on. Let's go over here to chorus 2. Yeah, let's do chorus 2. So again, safety net stuff there. We're not looking for that compressor to be activating all the time. We just want it to kind of catch things that are extra loud. Same thing with this compressor here. We shouldn't be seeing this activate very much. Mostly just if there are spots where there are 2 pianos playing at the same time is really the only time we ought to be seeing this compress even a little. It's mostly just as a safety net. Just make sure our level was staying matched there. Finally, we have a channel EQ, which is a mid-range bandpass thing. This was to help our strings and orchestra both come through without clashing up against one another. So for the pianos, we boosted at 600 and cut at 1,000. And then on the strings, we did the opposite, cut at 600, boosted at 1,000, so that we can kind of try to get both of them coming through really well. For the moment, good with all of that stuff. Moving into strings, we've got a lot of stuff going on here that we need to make sure we are keeping where we want. I'm seeing at least one mistake that I made. This right here should be the low strings, not high strings. So lots of strings channels in this one. This one has got a lot of orchestra information going on in it. So we've got, let's see, low strings 1, low strings 2, low strings 3, high strings 1, 2, 3, solo violin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then low choir, high choir. So lots of orchestra information going on here. In our low strings, we have cuts at 60 and 80 for the bass drum and the bass guitar, and a boost at 120 to kind of help the low strings push through in that little area. We also have Logic's built-in compressor set to Platinum Orchestral, which is a pretty good compressor for strings that I've discovered. Helps keep everything flat. It can occasionally make things sound a little unnatural or make them sound computery, which usually you don't want, so you want to watch out for that. So for our low strings channels, we have that. High strings, same thing, Platinum Orchestral compressor, and then our EQ, we're high passing at 120, cutting a little bit at 1200, just for this is kind of like a weird nasally thing going on right there. All three high strings channels have that. At the moment, our solo violins only have compression. Probably the Platinum Orchestral? Yes. Same thing with the low choir. Actually, the low choir and the high choir have something different going on there. Why does the high choir have a space designer on it? Yeah, we're going to have to deal with those. Not sure if we're going to need anything EQ-wise on the solo violins. Excuse me. They sound okay as is. That might be something we need to add in the mid-range bandpass. But at the moment, I think we're good. Let's take a look at the choir, though. So we have low choir in that instrumental. We're almost definitely going to want to do our 70 hertz cut. Actually, we can make this 80 because there isn't bass drum happening right here. It's just bass guitar. So we want to make sure this low choir is not getting in the way of the bass guitar. Boy, that low choir is actually adding a lot. When it first started, I wasn't 100% sure I was hearing it until I soloed it. And then I was like, oh my gosh. Then when we mute it, it just like the section falls flat. Yeah, I think we're okay without the Platinum Orchestral or any sort of compression on that too. Okay, and then the high choir, which is in a couple of different places. We should probably get some EQ on this as well. Let's hear this bit. Right. Very ambient, that. It's not meant to be right up in front, but it's definitely adding something. We've got high choir in the instrumental section as well. And I think we can go without compression on these because it's mostly just holding that E minor chord there. Okay, on our orchestra master, we have a channel EQ, which is currently active. This is a mid-only cut of 4 decibels at 400 hertz. This is just to kind of help push the orchestra stuff out to the side so it's not taking up stuff that goes in the middle, like the bass guitar, the bass drum, a lot of the pianos, vocals, if there were more vocals in this song. This is something I saw Nealeigh do one time and adopted for myself. I like it. We've also got multi-pression in here, which is doing the normal thing. It's mostly a safety net, but it's just making sure there aren't any errant frequencies jumping out super loud. Let's check and make sure this is doing what we want it to. Okay, I think we're good there. Compression, again, safety net. This shouldn't hardly be doing anything at all. Let's look at that same section again. Okay, a few things there. We switched to the Studio VCA with soft distortion just to kind of help that low end be nice and round and warm. This is something we did in... Okay, something we did in Poison in the Well that we undid for Boundless because the strings were less of a feature. Here, they're definitely a feature, so we definitely want those strings to feel nice and full and round. And then some level matching, making sure that compression isn't making the strings way louder. We then have an additional channel EQ at the end, which is mid-range bandpass stuff. A cut at 220 for muddiness, and then our piano thing. So cutting at 600, boosting at 1000, which is the opposite of our piano cut and boost, just to help them sit together better. This is really starting to sound a bit different. I don't know about you guys, but in my speakers, turning all of these on is suddenly we're starting to hear that slot together. Everything is starting to slot together a lot better. When the guitars came in right there, I heard them super clearly, and I hadn't been all that well before. They were there, but it wasn't near that clear. So we're going to need to keep an eye on our balance, but I think we're doing pretty good here. Also, not hearing the leads almost at all. The leads are, again, more ambient in this song than anything else. There's not really a guitar solo or anything like that, but there are definitely some leads. That's where we're at. So first off, we have James lead, which is awesome. We don't have James lead very often in AfterWinter songs, but in this song he actually does have a left and right lead, which we've set basically the same as his amp settings. High passing at 70, multi-pressing for palm mutes, but I don't think we need the multi-pressing here. There shouldn't be any palm mutes in this part. Yeah, I think that's an extra plug-in that we don't need. And then my guitars, we've got a left and right, basically a harmony to James, again high passing at 70, and then I've got an additional left and right lead that kind of continue on in harmony past where James and I are in harmony. Again, EQing high pass at 70, pretty much it there. And then we want to talk about our master bus there. Let's put them in solo and kind of check out what's going on. There we are. Very nice. Yeah, I'm liking that. You can definitely tell when it switches over. Also, I did a kind of a new thing on this album where I labeled the tracks with which guitar I had used, just because I like to remember that. In the section that's just me in harmony, this right here, is this one here. This blue Jackson Kelly is both of those guitars there. This was definitely a few... I think I bought this maybe in 2019 or 2020, but neat to be able to use it. Now, in the part where James and I are in harmony, this earlier part, now again, James is probably using either his ESP LTD or the Sterling John Petrucci guitar. I don't remember which one he used. I need to mark his too, just so that we know. I think in the edits project they're marked, but they're not in the main one. But what I'm using is this old girl, which Cody particularly ought to be recognizing for sure. This is the guitar we affectionately called the Pitchfork, although it's actually a Silvertone Apocalypse. This is a Paul Stanley guitar. And I don't use this guitar very much for anything anymore. I've had it since 2004, so it's always good to find at least one thing to use it on the album for. But so that's the harmony guitar in this section. All right, let's see where we're at with everything again. There we go. Everyone should just play tellies. Yes. I've got mine back here. I don't think it made an appearance on this album, but at the same time that we were writing this album, Eli and Justin and I were working on an Eagles tribute album. And I use the telly all over the Eagles thing. Now, unfortunately, we can't stream anything to do with that. That is also being mixed at the moment, but, you know, the Eagles will sue me out of existence if I try to show any of that on stream. So, yeah. Yes, Cody says that old guitar. That is for sure, man. Now, I mentioned that I wasn't hearing these leads super clearly, so we want to pay attention to that in this. Oh, not here. Okay, so those are definitely pretty out of balance. Also, I noticed James's left lead is way quieter than his right lead. That's probably not on purpose. Yeah, I'm not really hearing those. Okay, let's work on that just a little bit more. I'm going to mute my harmonies and hear just James, because I feel like James's is a little bit too kind of in the upper register, like it's a little bit too aggressive. And we could push it higher if we were making it sound more like a neck pickup. So let's cut, let's say about at 3,000. Let's make a cut here. Oh yeah, I forgot we're in stereo here, so we want to cut on both channels, or else it's going to sound real weird. That definitely helped, but I think we're still hearing kind of an odd upper frequency. Let's set a pretty harsh cut and see if we can sweep around and find it. Now, James also recorded this at the same time he was recording his rhythm guitar tracks, I think. So we've got this weird kind of like huff right there where he switched back to chords. And we want to get rid of that. So let's snip right there and do a little fade out. Oh, you know what? I bet mine does that too, just looking at it. Okay, even on these lead tracks, there's kind of a weird little like string squeak. Yeah, definitely don't want that string squeak in there. Got rid of the echoes, didn't get rid of the string squeak. Yeah, okay, so these leads are definitely background, you know what I mean? These are not the focus of the sections they are in. So that's going to be an interesting kind of balance that we got to strike there, where we need to hear them, but we don't need to hear them super loud. Okay, let's take a look at the leads master. We've got kind of the normal thing here, multipressor, compressor, and then EQ that was necessitated by the bandpass. Doesn't even look like there's anything on that EQ at the moment. So let's take a look at multipression. I'm betting we're gonna need a little bit of a low cut on the two that are the blue Jackson Kelly. Those are neck pickup, but that has introduced just a little bit of mud, especially on lead 5, which is the lower harmony. Okay, our compressor not activating very much, which is exactly what we want. And on this EQ, we currently have nothing, but we do have a cut at 2000 and a boost at 1200, which were both turned off. So this must have been something we had in Poison in the Well that we turned off for Boundless. Let's just see what it does if we turn it on. Okay, I kind of like what it's doing. We'll leave that on for now. Okie dokie. On our lead vocal, let me just take a look at something here real fast. Yep, okay, that's what I thought. On our lead vocal, we have two tracks here. This is just Majennica, her main lead, and then a double. The double is, as always, just kind of beefing up the main track. It's not meant to sound like two people singing. We do have an instance of Virtual Mix Rack doing all the normal stuff, saturation, EQ, compression, level matching, all the good stuff it normally does. And then on our regular EQ, we've got a high pass at 150 and also a cut here at 670, which is probably a or a mid-range bandpass thing. Actually, we've got two cuts, a 551 and a 671. So neither of those may be necessary. We got a tiny little cut clear up at 13.7 as well, 13.7. Which is probably just, Majennica does have a little bit of a harsh quality sometimes, especially in the higher range, so it's probably for that. We should have the same thing in the double. Yep, for now, let's go ahead and get rid of those mid-range bandpass cuts until we know we need them. Everything should be good there. After that, they're hitting multi-band compression. Sorry, not multi-band compression. Parallel compression. My brain is like deteriorating the longer we go. And then we hit our lead vocals master, where we have a de-esser. This is the Aosis de-esser set to a default that I've been using for a long time. Then we have multi-pression here. Let's jump out to where she's actually singing. Just kind of take a look at what it's doing. We definitely had to adjust those just a hair because those settings were from Boundless, which was mostly my lead vocal, so that was set more for me than for her. And then at the end, we have a channel EQ doing a tiny little boost at 4,000 and a tiny little dip at 300. Again, this would have been mid-range bandpass stuff we may not need. Let's go ahead and turn that off for now. More than that, let's actually recall the default here because there's a whole bunch of stuff that's turned on turned off right there. We'll let our multi-band. Why do I keep saying multi-band? Mid-range bandpass tell us what needs done there, if anything, and until then we'll leave that turned off. Our background vocals each have an EQ and a compression. The compression is Logic's built-in compressor set to edge vocal, which is just what I like for background vocals. And for the channel EQ, for a female vocal, it's a high pass at 150, and for a male vocal, it's high pass at 120, just to let a little bit more lows in if necessary. All the compression is the same. These then all flow into the background vocals master, which again has the de-esser on it, the same de-esser set to the same preset. Then we go into multipressor, which we're definitely going to want to check out for this one. All the same things as normal here, just a safety net for errant frequencies in certain ranges. We also have a compressor set to dual mono here so that we're compressing the left and right channels individually just because we have a lot of vocals flowing into this. Again, we want a safety net to make sure that there's nothing jumping out all of the sudden. So, but it is still safety net, so we shouldn't be seeing this jump a whole bunch. Let's jump to the middle of that where there's more harmonies. So just tiny little bits of compression in there, and that we're looking at the left channel one, but the right channel is the same settings. Finally, at the end, again, we have our mid-range bandpass stuff. We will recall the default until we know for sure. I just set that as the default, didn't I? Dang it. Okay. Just want to zero everything out here. Oh, I did it again. I love it. Zero everything out. Save as default. Okay, there we go. Until the mid-range bandpass tells us what we need right there, we can let that be just kind of normal. Okay, after that we've got our vocal reverb and delay. Now I did say that I wanted to mess around with this a little bit, because I want these vocals to sound a little bit far away and mysterious, but I'm not sure that our current settings are exactly what I have in my mind. I would like to hear a little bit of a darker reverb. Interesting. Okay, so I'm not really seeing what I was hoping in any of those presets. Now what we have here isn't completely bad. Let's try this large dark vocal. Yeah. No. Still not really hearing what I was kind of hoping to hear. So maybe we ought to go back to our what we had before, which was huge vocal. It has grown on me over the course of us mixing. Let's try a different reverb. Another thing we might try, I'm not for sure on this yet, but I wonder if we ought to turn the highs on the actual vocals, the lead vocals and background vocals, just turn the highs down so that the vocal itself is a little bit darker. Let's try this Midnight Hall. What does this do? What do we got in large spaces? Dark Rising Hall. There should be some interesting ones in here. Dark Piano Hall. Dark Concert Hall. Let's try a lot of these dark. There was a Dream Hall back there that could be interesting. Maybe. You know what? There's supposed to be, outdoor spaces. We're talking about this guy being like lost in a forest or a jungle. How about Forest Echo Dark? Or there's also Forest Echo. What do we have in here? The Tomb might be a little interesting. These are usually not super good, but I'm just curious now. So this is Forest Echo Dark. It's interesting for sure. I don't hate it. Let's roll with that for now. Also, just out of curiosity, want to see what happens if we take our channel EQ off the reverb. So usually we don't want our reverb to take up a huge amount of space in the mix, so we cut off the low lows and the high highs. If we turn that off so we're getting full quality, just out of curiosity, what changes? Really seem to change much. Yeah, let's roll with that. Okay, after that, the only thing we have left in the song is our rain sound effects, which happen in the instrumental, I believe. I thought I wasn't hearing those earlier. We didn't ever bring that master channel up. It's still down at 0. I keep forgetting that those exist for some reason. One thing I want to take a look at is probably that right there. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty good with that. I like it. Put that channel EQ on there, and then I kind of liked it better without it, actually. Okay, so this pretty much concludes section 2. There's kind of one big thing that we still need to do, and that is that mid-range bandpass. I'm hoping we're going to be cutting it close to time for me to listen to the entire song with this. So we may want to leave that till next time. I don't want to. I'd really like to mess around with it right now. But we want to make sure we can focus and not hurry through it. So, yeah, we'll explain a little bit about the mid-range bandpass, and then we'll go ahead and close it out. So the mid-range bandpass is an effect that is all the way at the end. This is after the limiter. This is the last thing on our chain, and it's basically making us hear only the mid. So you can see we are cutting all of the lows here under 200 essentially, and all of the highs above like 4,500 or so. And then we're also using the gain knob to turn the whole thing down, which is why it looks like this part's turned down as well. But mostly we're just hearing the middle. And this is because the mid-range is the only range that basically every single speaker in existence has. If you want your mix to translate across different speakers, then you need to make sure that your mids are under control, making sure that they sound the way they should, that everything's still balanced in there, and usually that is an EQ thing that you want to do differently. If all of your volumes are properly balanced in full quality, but things in the mid-range bandpass still sound weird, it's probably because you haven't done a good enough job of EQing things to slot together. So we've already done a lot of that work, but we're going to be taking a listen through the entire song with this on. Now, it does kind of make the song sound like you're listening to it through a broken speaker or something, unless you're listening to it on your phone, in which case it almost doesn't change anything, which is kind of funny. And listening for things that are out of balance. And usually this is pretty telling regarding things sounding kind of funny. So then making some EQ changes will allow you to get everything to sit where it should, and then your whole song should not only sound better, but it should sound a lot better across every speaker system that it's played through, because we're kind of playing to the lowest common denominator with that. So very interesting, huge game changer for my mixing process that I found out just in the last probably year or less. So that's going to be where we're kind of starting the next episode. Should be tomorrow. Unless we have like a whole bunch of cancellations today and I end up with more time. But at the moment, doesn't kind of seem like that. All right, so let's do all of the good old stuff. Looking forward to diving back into this one tomorrow. This one's really starting to take shape and sound the way that it's going to. We've still got a lot of work. There are a lot of lines that we're going to need to toe carefully when doing the volume automation of this, making sure that we're maintaining our dynamics for the soft parts to the loud parts, making sure the loud parts kind of come in with the right level that we need to. I already know there are a few things at the moment anyway that I want to make sure are turned up or turned down in certain spots. So definitely going to be a lot of work, but a lot of fun to see this one really fully form. All right, guys, so you guys kind of know the deal here, but regardless of whether you're watching right now, whether you were watching before, whether you're watching this in the future when it's not live, I can't even properly express to you how much I appreciate even a second of your time that you spend checking this stuff out, hanging out here in the streams. I really hope that you enjoy watching this all come together, the process of this album being made. Hope that you enjoy what you're hearing. The band pours our collective heart and soul into this stuff. We do this because we love it, and basically for no other reason. We feel we were called to do this, and so we do it to the best of our ability, and hopefully that comes through. So yes, again, can't thank you enough for the support, watching the streams, listening to the music, watching this, listening to me ramble. Hopefully I make sense some of the time at least. Really, really, really appreciate it, guys. All right, so we will catch you hopefully tomorrow, probably right around this same time, maybe a little earlier, 12:30-ish, 1 o'clock-ish. We should be doing another couple hours of work on all this stuff and